Yesterday, we looked at when we have emotions that are deficient, which means the emotion is not presenting itself in the person in a manifest way. We in our society, probably the majority of it's not a question of a lack of the emotions, is that we often have one emotion that is clouding out everything else. Okay? So when we have what we would say an emotion that's in excess, it means that we see the world only through the lens of that emotion. That emotion is prohibiting the free flow of all the other emotions. So that emotion would be considered to be in excess. What we would want to be doing at that time is to disperse the yin meridian that is associated with the emotion. So for example, what emotion is associated with water? Fear. So when can you imagine you would want to treat somebody in excess fear?
A panic syndrome.
Panic syndromes, especially if the panic is about fear-related stuff, okay? Now, thinking about this, the majority of people who suffer from anxiety and panic attacks, where do they feel it? If I tell you anxiety and panic, where do most people feel it? Chest, okay? One. Remember from UAT, the palm of the foot, or the sole of the foot, kidney 1 is the direct image of Renmai 17, where they feel. Okay, so it's going to have a very strong reaction, also from an image of where the somatic experience of the emotion is taking place. Okay. Now, what type of reaction do you think you would get? You have somebody who is anxious, anxiety-driven, has lots of fear, and you release the fear. What do you think is going to be the effect it's going to have on them? A different emotion is going to show up. It can be any emotion. I've done this, and the patient just starts laughing on the table because now there's space for the joy to be expressed. They start yelling because they need to express their anger. They start crying because the sadness comes in. They start, all of a sudden, start having these brilliant ideas and thinking and thinking and thinking because the spleen is finally free. Okay? Normally, when you disperse an emotion in excess, you're going to get a different emotion that's going to come and express itself. When I think about emotions, I think that there's a primitive, or I don't know if it's primitive, but there's a primordial degree of use, let's say. It's almost like so the first thing we need to do is we need to protect ourselves. Now, fear is probably the greatest protector of all the emotions. After fear comes anger, right? First, it's the warning signs, and we see everything as being a warning. Then we see things as anger, right? Protecting our borders. Okay? The next one that we often see is the thinking. Right? So the person examining what's happening. Then we will probably see the sadness, letting go of what they've held on through all those processes and were not able to let go of. So we'll start to see sadness. And then the last one to show up is joy. So often I see that hierarchy. So I would say is that most of the time when you disperse water, often wood would be the first thing to come up. Not always, but often. Based on that hierarchy of needs of emotion, are there functions in relationship to our survival?